Ohio House Bill 454, also known as the Save Adolescents from Experimentation or SAFE Act, Families, Aging, and Human Services Committee. Second hearing, May 19, 2022. Testimony by Jeannette Cooper from International Partners for Ethical Care. Proponent.
I would now like to call on Jeannette Cooper, representing International Partners for Ethical Care. Welcome to committee.
Thank you. Good morning, honorable representatives of Ohio. My name is Jeannette Cooper. I'm here on behalf of International Partners for Ethical Care to state our support of House Bill 454 and our support for each of the 25 representatives who have sponsored this necessary bill to protect children from experimental treatments on their brains and bodies. I will note that my father is here. He's a 76-year-old man who voted Democrat once and says he regrets it. I have never voted Republican in my entire life. Partners for Ethical Care is a secular, nonpartisan, all-volunteer nonprofit organization funded by individuals with an annual budget of approximately $30,000. I am the treasurer. I have personally paid my own way to be here today. You will hear from a significant number of associations opposed to this bill, and that makes sense because they have a strong financial interest in continuing the business of pathologizing gender. For example, the American Academy of Pediatrics spends approximately $800,000 on lobbying the government each year. I believe we at Partners for Ethical Care spent $30 last year on sending handwritten postcards to legislators, including you. I wrote them. We are here because we care about the long-term health and well-being of children in Ohio and across the world. I myself was born and raised in southeastern Ohio. As you have seen and will see, children and families are in distress over this topic. It is difficult to witness people in emotional turmoil, searching for solutions and shouting outside. But changing pronouns, injecting children with Schedule III steroids like testosterone, and removing the breasts of girls before they even have a chance to get to know their bodies has created many more problems than it aimed to solve in Ohio. Yes, these children are in emotional distress, that is obvious. And yes, some may appear happy for a few months or even a few years because they got what they demanded from adults who want to make them happy. But as the saying goes, be careful what you wish for, because feelings are not forever. The feelings that young people are having about their bodies are real. They are intense, but they are not uncommon and certainly not new. The thing that is new is how we are choosing to describe and address this normal discomfort with puberty as a society. Emotions, no matter how intense and no matter how distressing, should never be met with a scalpel. In no other case of mental distress would we suggest that a person, let alone a child, should have any part permanently removed or disfigured by hormones. We all know that children grow and change. We are not the same people and certainly do not have the same feelings that we did when we were children. This is not the same thing as coming out as lesbian or gay. When that happens, it's all ages of people, not a massive number of adolescents in peer groups. And there is no name change, new pronouns, pharmaceuticals, or surgeries if someone comes out as lesbian or gay. LGB is nothing like T. Because we at Partners for Ethical Care have spent years interacting with families and professionals on the topic of gender identity, what we know is this. When kids spend less time online and more time outside, they desist from their claimed trans identity and become comfortable with their bodies. When families spend less time isolated in rooms, on screens, or with peers, and more time doing activities together in diverse and multi-generational groups, children who have been clinging to a trans identity desist and become comfortable talking to a variety of people, including those with whom they disagree. When kids spend less time ruminating on their feelings and on their phones and more time taking walks and allowing their feelings to dissipate, they are likely to desist from their trans identity and more likely to build resilience when they are not so isolated. We have observed thousands of children desist from their trans identity, But we also know hundreds who have been permanently, psychologically, and physically harmed by so-called gender-affirming medicine, which is not medicine at all. When parents and professionals take time to figure out the root causes of a child's intense interest in having a new name, new pronouns, new body, and new self, we observe that children do not need the crutch of a trans identity and they desist. And when feelings persist beyond the normal period of childhood, this mental distress should be met with therapy, not surgery. We must focus on changing society rather than changing our bodies. I wish this was the solution to all the anxiety, depression, and host of other mental health issues going on with young people today, but it is not. Using someone's chosen pronouns is not going to save their life, just like using someone's birth name is not going to cause their suicide. That's not how suicide works. We are proud to see Ohio standing up for the protection of gender nonconforming children, much like I was as a child and much like I am now as an adult. If I went to a gender clinic today, they would suggest that I remove my breasts. I am glad that I was given the chance to grow up without pharmaceutical and surgical intervention for my personality, including my preference for short hair, playing with cars, getting my hands dirty, and using tools to make stuff. I'm glad that my adolescent angst and intense desire to be unique was met with parents like my father, who helped me find activities that engaged my interests and people who appreciated my quirkiness. I am glad that I was able to become a mother and breastfeed my trans-identified daughter, whose custody I completely lost because I will not lie to the government and say that she is anything but a girl. I am glad that my parents and professionals told me the truth by saying that it gets better. And you need caring and supportive people to spend time, not money, to help you learn to get through your distress, not purchased professionals and associations to fix you. Thank you for your time and support of this bill.
Thank you so much for being here and for your testimony today. Are there any questions for the witness? Representative Smith?
Thank you. Through the chair to the witness, thank you for being here. I feel like one of my takeaways from all this is that we need more mental health care and like unlimited funding so that people can find the right person to talk to and maybe get a second opinion and a third opinion and not have to worry that they can't afford to get any opinions or enough opinions. And so I wonder if you think that having more mental health care options could be helpful for people who are, for young people who are facing questions about gender identity or sexuality.
Through the chair to the representatives, absolutely not. I think society needs to step up. I think we need to talk to our neighbors. I think that the work I do on the west side of Chicago, I see more people helping each other because the government has not helped them on the west side of Chicago in those Black communities, and they serve each other. Communities need to help each other. We do not need professionals to fix us. That is for extreme circumstances. What we need is parents and supportive adults to step up and have relationships with children and stop isolating them from transphobic people.
Thank you. Through the chair to the witness. I appreciate your perspective and I appreciate that you're taking time to be here. So the other piece I wanted to ask about is what do you think the impact would be about the mental health care, what I consider to be the counseling and mental health care piece in this bill, where a nurse, a counselor, a teacher would have to report to the parents of a child who was expressing questions about gender identity. What do you think the impact of that would be?
Through the chair to the representative, the question about reporting, we report abuse and neglect, correct? In the state of Ohio and every other state in this nation, we report abuse and neglect, and there is very clear guidelines to that. If I use my child's birth name, I will tell you, in Chicago, my custody has been removed, not because there was a report of abuse or neglect. No DCFS investigation was ever opened on me. So I do not think that schools should be reporting a poor use of pronouns. And I don't think that they are required to do so. I think that they should include parents in discussions about their own children. If you do not meet the threshold of abuse or neglect, as the state of Ohio clearly has, then the parents should always be included in conversations about their own children.
Follow up? Representative Humphrey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you for being here. I have two questions for you, but the first question, it kind of stems from your response to Representative Smith about mental health services. And you let us know very clearly that you do work on the west side of Chicago in Black communities. And I respect that, I'm sure, and I'm positive that it's needed. But you mentioned that communities need to help communities, and I get that too. But would you also say that there are systemic issues in those communities that have been placed upon those Black people that you speak of that need to be addressed?
We're talking about, through the chair to the representative, today we're talking about middle upper class white people. These are people who purchase people to talk to them. If I tell a therapist to talk to my child and I pay them, they will talk to them, and the child learns that very quickly. It is purchased friendship. The things that are happening on the west side of Chicago are very real and very distressing. They don't care about pronouns. That's not important. Did I answer your question?
Follow up?
I appreciate that, but I was just following up from the question the question I was asked to you, because I wanted to make clear that mental health services are really important. But I guess my question to you, the additional question is, in your work with folks who are transitioning, what is the number? Do you have a number of folks that you work with specifically that are detransitioning? Do you have a number, like, specifically or a roundabout?
Through the chair to the representative, I work with parents, mostly. I run a parent group of 2,500 parents. That's where we get thousands of desisted children, all over the world. This is what I have done for the past 3 years since I lost custody of my daughter. So I mostly know about parents, and I'm happy to answer questions about parent experiences.
Representative John?
Thank you, Chair Manchester. Thank you, Ms. Cooper, for being here today and traveling here from Chicago. So looking through your testimony, you said, but changing pronouns, injecting children with Schedule III steroids like testosterone, and removing the breasts of girls before they even have a chance to get to know their bodies has created many more problems than it aimed to solve. So there's been a question of whether surgeries are taking place and on children under the age of 18, and you specifically referred to that in your testimony as breasts being removed from girls. Are you aware of that happening to children specifically anywhere, and then also specific to the state of Ohio?
Through the chair to the representative, next week you will hear from a 17-year-old girl whose breasts were removed at the age of 15. She was in Louisiana. I recorded her testimony. You can see it online at Partners for Ethical Care. I would like you to join a Facebook group called Parents Supporting Parents of Trans Kids. You will see 25,000 parents celebrating the injection of all kinds of cross-sex hormones and body modification surgeries. They will let anybody in. We have so many people in that group watching what they do. I'm sure they will let you in.
Are there any additional questions for the witness? Representative Click?
Through the chair, Ms. Cooper, thank you, and so much. You are another rock star.
Is it my hair?
It is your hair. I wish I had that much hair.
So does my dad.
What's that?
So does my dad.
So does your dad. And your dad's a rock star that brought a rock star into this world. I have followed Partners. I did not know you were coming today. I'm so glad you are here. And I followed Partners for Ethical Care, and I've got a lot of my information from you and from your resources. And I thank you for that because it's very informative. And so you have a heartbreaking story, number one. But first of all, I just like the idea, because I've been telling people this, and not everyone on the other side of the aisle necessarily believes me, But this is really a bipartisan issue. This is not a Republican issue. It's not a conservative issue. It's not a religious issue. This is an issue no matter what part of the spectrum you come from. It's just an issue that cares about kids and says, let's save the adulting for adults and let kids be kids. Would you expound on that thought for me, please?
Through the chair to the representative, I understand that you did make a statement as well as asked a question. So yes, I think it's pretty clear that this is marketing. In this room, we have many things that people purchased to show how good they are to children. There is nothing that I have to wear on my body or as a pin or button or sticker or anything that shows that I care about children. So yes, I think that there are so many things that we see happening in society that what you're referring to really impacts children. The one thing that I do want to say is this idea of affirming is an idea that we have known forever. It is called positive reinforcement. Everybody who took Psychology 101 would know what that is. By giving a dog a treat, they continue to do the same thing over and over. If I say that I love your green jacket, you will probably wear it more often. And if I keep using your pronouns and smiling at you, I'm sure that you will be very happy. That's affirmation. That's also dog training and positive reinforcement. If you reward it, it increases the behavior. That's basic. So I think what's interesting, and just to kind of get back to a little bit about what you're asking is, if you don't know a trans-identified child, you're living under a rock. Mm-hmm. I encounter them all the time. I went through Forest to the dairy barn with my sister last week, and I was actually taking a picture of something else, and there was a trans-identified male, maybe 6 feet tall, and then I thought, oh, wow, Forest, Ohio is a really small town, kind of like Duncan Falls. It's kind of everywhere. You would have to be blind not to notice that this is a social contagion.
Thank you.
Follow up?
Yes, follow-up. So the earlier, one of our other witnesses used the term turf. I don't think anyone in here probably knows what that is, but I bet you do.
But I do,
And I bet you've been called one.
for sure.
And can you explain to to our committee what that is, what that means, and how it's
Sure.
a slang word, term of derision?
Through the chair to the representative. It's a point of pride for some of us because I guess I'm conservative because I believe that girls grow up to be women and boys grow up to be men. I guess that is a conservative thought now. So TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. That means that I believe that girls become women and boys become men.
Okay.
Are there any additional questions for the witness?
Just one. please.
Representative Click, one more?
First of all, I appreciate the indulgence of the committee and the chairman and all of the folks here. I know we've got another witness to follow, and this is a very important issue, and it deserves to be discussed back and forth and to hear all sides, so I do appreciate that. You've mentioned, and I don't want to push you in this because I know it's very sensitive, but I was very disturbed to hear that you lost so you appear to be a very open-minded person to me, but you lost your daughter because you were trying to do what was best for her. Do you want to expound on that, or would you rather keep that private?
I can. I believe my father may not have a chance to testify today, but I'm sure he'll be back next week. I spent over $100,000 in family court, so it's not money that does it. My daughter looks just as pretty as Representative Manchester with makeup and earrings and nail polish and a bra, and she's beautiful. And when I sat down with her in family therapy and she said she was a boy and she described me, I wasn't quite sure how that was possible. Why am I not a boy? then if she somehow is and looks like you? That doesn't make sense. But if you say you are, then you are. That's trans. So if you believe, you have to have a couple of things in place. If you believe that somebody can be trans more or less because they've memorized a list of criteria from the DSM on the internet, and like many of our kids are super intelligent and very articulate, then they're able to say that, and it really makes it so that adults don't have to do much. And the adults have no problem helping this child, doing their job, walking the child from the building over here to the gas chamber over there. They did not kill the child. They did not do the surgeries. They didn't do all of those things. They simply walked the child from one piece to the other piece. Nobody is responsible in these cases, just like no one is responsible for the complete alienation of me from my child. Everybody was just doing their job by helping this child, my daughter, to save her from my unsafe household because I believe that she's a girl. I have a PhD candidacy in education. I have taught children for 34 years, since I was 10 years old. I used to sit on the school board of my local school. I am not unsafe for children. And I believe very strongly, as you can see in front of your face, that girls do not have to have long hair, wear makeup, shave anything, or wear a bra, and they are still girls. They used to be called tomboys, and we used to let them grow up.
Thank you very much.
Are there any additional questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate it.